Hello, hello, welcome back to another tier episode here with TLC, where I break down some of 5e's classes and their subclasses, just kind of telling you the goods, the bads, the uglies, everything in between, and putting them into a tier system going from F to S, F being really horrible. Highly recommend you just don't even bother playing, as they really have no saving graces about them, before ending with, of course, my S tier, which is, in my opinion, the best subclass for any particular class here in 5e. Now, we are looking today, finishing up here with our Ranger. So if you haven't watched part 1, alright, I will put that up at the top here of the screen here now. Go check it out real quick, as it will cover my F to C tier, along with kind of giving a little bit of an explanation, something that needs to be talked about when we talk about the Ranger. But today we're going to move right on into the good stuff, the top tiers, the B's, the A's, and of course the coveted S. So let's not dilly-dally, let's go ahead and get right on into it here. B tier, starting off, we have the Drake Warden. To put it simply, there's too much shit to talk about here that I could ever put on the screen. And this is one of those times where in order to fully explain your Drake, your companion, you need to go check out the stat block, and I didn't feel right not having it on my screen. So I figured if I can't show you that, I might as well just kind of shorten it all up and tell you about the Drake Warden. So first off, the Drake Warden, it is the Beastmaster, but 1,000 times better, by simply saying that the Drake Warden takes its own turn, it does its own thing, and you as a free action get to tell it what it needs to do. Immediately makes it way better than Beastmaster, that required an action to tell it what to do. The fact that this Drake that you get gets a breath weapon, the fact that it gets fly speed eventually, the fact that it increases in size and damage, and Tasha's really did a good job of kind of implementing new just kind of new scaling sequences, such as using, your proficiency bonus for things, double proficiency bonus for things. And what you'll find is the Drake Warden is actually a really, really cool Ranger class. Now, although it's really cool flavor-wise, and although who wouldn't want to go, right into battle, on top of a fucking dragon, there is something that we need to talk about, and it's the reason why it's not A tier. It's close, but it's not quite. The reason why this is not an A tier, for me anyway, is because for how cool the Drake Warden might be in combat, and for how cool it might be out of combat once the Drake has, say, the ability to fly, until you get to that point, this class is completely combat-oriented. Now, if you are in a campaign where your DM has basically said, hey, fucking, we're not going to do too much investigating, exploration is going to be kind of a thing, social encounters, never heard of her, we are only going to do combat, then yeah, this is definitely a good choice for you. But if you are looking for a Ranger, if you are anyone like me, in which case you look for classes that aren't just really, really good at one thing, but are instead good at what I'm trying to do, but also give me options and utility to do things outside of the one thing, this falls short there. It misses out a little bit. It strikes out, or gets stuck at third base before it can get all the way home. Because it follows the very same thing that the Cavalier Fighter does, which is that Drake Warden Rangers, every single ability, every single time that you get a class ability, it always has something to do with your Drake. I don't think a single one gives you a bonus. It just allows your Drake to do more things, or allow you and the Drake to do something, but when you're only together, which is probably going to be mostly in combat. Because of this, I gotta put it into B tier, because there might be an instance where I just don't have the Drake with me. There might be instances where I just physically can't, or there might be instances where it just wouldn't make sense. So I wish that this class would have gone just a little bit, even if it was just like one or two of the abilities. I wish like its 6th ability, its level 6 ability or something, gave the Ranger something and not just the Drake. If it would have given me at least some kind of utility to go with it, definitely would have been in my A tier. But because of not, here it is, B tier. Sticking it with my B tier, I have the Swarm Keeper. Gathered Storm. Once on each of your turns, you can cause the Swarm to assist you in the following ways. Immediately after you hit a creature with an attack, the attack's target takes 1d6 piercing damage from the Swarm. This attack's target must succeed on a strength saving throw against your spell save DC or be moved by the Swarm in 15 feet. You are moved by the Swarm 5 feet horizontally in a direction of your choice, so you get to pick one of those things. Here's why this is so good. One, the fact that this specifically does not say that the 1d6 piercing damage only gets done once. Almost every other ranger class up until now, it has always been 1d8 or 1d6 or 1d4 once a turn. This is every time. Which means when you reach level 5, you get to do this twice. If you maybe take a little bit of a multi-class dip into fighter and get action surge, you can do this 4 times. And they all succeed. Or they all work. I should say it that way. Being able to move a target 15 feet. That's really good. You know, that's not the little baby 5 feet, you know, like your warlocks, all right, or the kind of mid-tier like your cavalier charging ability, you know, there from the fighter. All right, 15 feet is a pretty decent fucking movement. And if you think about it, once you reach level 5, you do this to a creature twice, they move 30 feet. That might be just enough to keep an enemy off from hitting one of your squishier party members. So, very, very good. Alright, Swarm Keeper Magic. Also at 3rd level, you learn the Mage Hand cantrip. When you cast it, the hand takes the form of a swarming creature's spirits. That's basically whatever your swarm looks like. You also learn an additional spell of 1st level or higher when you reach certain levels in this class. I do not have any of the Ranger spells tables shown here, just because I find that the Ranger... There are some classes where the extended spell list matters because they are more pure spellcaster. Like you use your spells way more often. Here, I find that most Rangers, they always end up, you know, doing the fan favorites, right? Like they always end up maybe Conjure Animals once they get to that point. Hunter's Mark is always a safe bet. Healing, you know, Cure Wounds is a safe bet. Pass Without a Trace is a safe bet. Maybe Spike Growth for, you know, some battlefield control, things of that nature. So I find that the extended spell lists generally don't make or break classes for me, like say they would with, you know, clerics, or when we get to our next few spellcasters, which they do. But here, you know, there are some spells, and the Swarm Keeper is not bad. It's not as good as some of the other Rangers, but it's not bad. Each one does count as a Ranger spell for you, but they do not count as Ranger spells that you know. So you just get to add them onto your spell list for free. Alright, 7th level, you can condense part of your swarm into a focused mass that lifts you up. As a bonus action, you gain a flying speed of 10 feet and can hover. This lasts for 1 minute, or until you are incapacitated. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. There we go, another fantastic little you know, tool here. And the reason I say that this is fantastic is because this is a number that you don't have to worry about increasing. It increases naturally. Which means if this were, you know, if this was like, hey, you can use this up to your wisdom modifier, then yeah, you may be able to start the game off. If you have like a 3 or even, God forbid, a 4 in your wisdom as a ranger, then you may be able to use this way more often than using your proficiency bonus. But that means that if you ever wanted to do that one more time, you would have to use an ASI into your wisdom, which, unless you're a spell-focused ranger, which there really aren't too many, I don't really know any spells that are that good that's like, yep, fucking, you know, say fuck it to your dex, put this shit in your wisdom, right? The fact that this is in a number that will just naturally increase over time, this is good. Now, I will say it is a flying speed of only 10 feet, but if, you know, let's say a combat goes 3 or 4 rounds, you could get 40 feet off the ground. That's enough to get out of reach of any creature that doesn't have some sort of ranged attack. This can make a very big difference in a number of battles. So, it's good. It is definitely good. And the fact that it is not concentration, it's a fly speed without concentration. It's not very fast, but it's definitely got some good things going for it. Alright, 11th level, your gathered swarm grows mightier in the following ways. The damage of the gathered swarm now increases to 1d8. So here we go, we get a nice little damage bump. If a creature fails its saving throw against being moved by the Gathered Swarm, it is now also knocked prone besides just being moved 15 feet. And when you are moved by the swarm, then you now have half cover. Now, I will say that last one is probably not going to be used too much, which is how come I'll be honest, I completely forgot that, at Gathered Storm, the very last ability, you are moved by the swarm 5 feet horizontally. I don't think you would use that too much. And the reason why I don't think you would use that too much is because rules as written, I'm pretty sure if you move yourself, even with an ability, you provoke attacks of opportunity. So if for some reason you need to move that extra 5 feet, I feel like you're probably trying to get out of an enemy's reach, at which point they're probably going to hit you. And I don't know if you would necessarily want to do that. But hey, maybe it is. This, however, this makes that ability maybe something you would actually think about using, because it gives you that half cover. It gives you that nice little bonus to your AC. Overall, not bad. All right, Swarming Dispersal. When you reach a 15th level, you can discorporate, I can't speak today, into your swarm, avoiding danger. When you take damage, you can use your reaction to give yourself resistance to that damage. You vanish into your swarm and then teleport to an unoccupied space that you can see within 30 feet of you, where you then reappear with the swarm. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Here we go, another proficiency bonus, which by 15... pretty sure your proficiency bonus is a +4. If not, it is that final +5, so you get to use it quite often, all right, a decent amount throughout the day. It is a reaction, which rangers generally, since you're probably not proccing too many opportunity attacks because you are probably keeping your distance, this is a nice little reaction that you may otherwise, probably feel like you have relatively empty most of the time, not used often. This is overall a solid choice. Now, every single one of these choices has been pretty damn solid, right? So why did I put it into my B tier here? Number 1 is Swarmkeeper Magic. At 3rd level, getting Mage Hand is not that crazy. Especially if you have I don't know a single pure spellcaster, unless it's like a cleric, who doesn't probably already have Mage Hand. So that alone is not, so that's kind of an empty ability there with Swarmkeeper Magic, in my opinion. The second problem is that most of these things, besides the Writhing Tide, almost every single one of these things is combat oriented. I've said it once, I've said it twice. It's as if, it's like Wizards of the Coast took the Ranger and said, okay, you have been the master of the exploration pillar. I remember I talked about those 4 pillars of play in my previous Ranger video. We have exploration, we have investigation, we have social encounters, we have combat encounters. The Ranger has been the master of the exploration pillar. The problem is that the exploration pillar is the little tiny cracked baby pillar next to all the big daddy combat, social encounters, and even exploration. Because of this, I feel like Wizards of the Coast took this class and said, okay, we're going to now make you really, really good at the combat pillar, because that's the one that people keep comparing, making tier lists about, is how much damage that they can, that they can output. And that's okay, but I think we've now even gone a step further, and now we've realized that, okay, maybe it was a bad idea to make anything super, super good at one pillar to begin with. Maybe we should make classes that have a little bit of a lot of things. I should be able to play a lot, I should have choices of subclasses that still make me feel really good in one of these pillars, but at the very least don't make me feel like I have nothing to contribute in the other 3. And in this case, they made this Ranger, this subclass, really good in the combat. Ways to get out of danger, you got your reaction, lets you to take resistance to damage. You'll be doing an extra D8 on every single one of your hits, which is at least 2, if not more often. These are really cool abilities, but they're all focused on that one pillar. You're still going to be pretty damn garbage when you go into your social encounters. You're still going to be pretty damn garbage when you go into your investigation stuff. So unless, so basically this took a class that used to be, if you don't need me to hunt down food or explore things or track things, don't call on me. Now it's, hey, unless we're going to hunt down food, explore things, or try to kill something at a distance, don't call me. And I don't know if adding that last one is enough to pull this subclass out of B tier, which is why I've put it here. Okay. So then what does it take to get into my coveted A and S tier here from the Ranger? Well, let's see. First off, Detect Portal. At 3rd level, you gain the ability to magically sense the presence of a planar portal. As an action, you detect the distance and direction to the closest planar portal within 1 mile of you. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. See Planar Travel section, Chapter 2 of the DM's Guide for examples. Also at 3rd level, you learn to draw the energy of the multiverse. As a bonus action, you choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. The next time you hit that creature on this turn with a weapon attack, all damage dealt becomes force, and the creature takes an additional 1d8 force damage. When you reach 11th level, this becomes 2d8. Now, I know that this may seem like, oh, this is all combat stuff. If you read the DM's Guide for examples of planar portals, one of the little kind of side shoots off to the, one of the things that they comment on is that it is up to a DM's discretion about what constitutes a full planar travel. And what I mean by that is that it is possible. In my campaign, for instance, I had someone who played Horizon Walker, and he approached me and he said, hey, I want to do Horizon Walker, but I don't know how often, like, you're going to be dealing with things creating portals in and out of this plane. So what would you have to say if, how would you consider Dimension Door to be a planar portal? It's on this plane, sure, but you're creating a portal in front of you with its exit up to 500 feet away. Would you consider this? And when I thought about it, I went, yeah, I probably would. And he said, okay, well, what about a teleportation circle? And I said, again, I probably would. What about teleport? I probably would. And what I've realized is, and this is maybe something that I did. Maybe this is I took the DM's discretion to make that choice. It is entirely possible that your DM reads those words and says, none of those are examples of planar travel. They are just examples of teleporting on the same plane of existence, and they are different things. At which case, I surrender. You're right. You can definitely read it that way. But let's just say that you don't, especially when you read the flavor text of the Horizon Walker. These are rangers that hunt down, whose entire lives are trained around studying and hunting, creatures that can traverse distances in instants. Does that not sound like Dimension Door, Teleportation Circle, teleport to you? Because it did to me. And so immediately, it was amazing how I would be able to still get away with, like, my enemies using Dimension Door or teleport. But to have someone in the party who could go, hey, I know the direction they went. Because they teleported beyond the mile distance. And so it was like, hey, you lost track of them once they went beyond that mile. But from now on, but you at least, you could sense the direction. So then it became this game of, like, they bring out my country map, my custom map, my world map. And they would go, okay, this is where we are. Hey, DM, where did you, like, what direction? And I would say, like, about southeast, about exactly southeast. And so then it became, this game of, okay, can we guess where he went? And it was such a cool implementation that I like this character, and maybe that's it. Maybe I'm a little biased. Maybe I'm a little biased because this character was so cool and he was so creative with how he used this ability. But I guess bottom line, what I'm trying to say is that I know that this may not sound very cool, but ask your DM how they would word portal, planar travel. Because in my mind, anything that allows you to traverse instantaneously from one point to another is planar travel. You might be on one plane of existence, but you're traveling that plane pretty damn well. But I don't know, that's just me. Alright, Planar Warrior. This gives you a constant bonus action. It gives you a nice solid 1d8 force damage with 2d8 once you've reached 11th level. It changes the damage of the attack to force damage, which means this is a type of weapon damage that will not be resisted. Once you've reached 3rd level, you don't have to worry about ghosts or poltergeists or wraiths or anything else being able to resist this. They get to take it full on. And even though you may look at this and go, well, but what if I want to use my Hunter's Mark? Okay, you definitely still can. First turn, use Hunter's Mark. From that turn forward, use your bonus action to use this ability and do that sweet, sweet extra d8 damage. You know, this basically gives you a free Hunter's Mark, a better Hunter's Mark every single turn. Granted, you don't get the tracking ability, but in terms of damage, it's better. So I love it. Alright, Ethereal Step. At 7th level, you learn how to step through the ethereal plane. As a bonus action on your turn, you can cast the spell Etherealness without expanding a spell slot, but the spell ends at the end of your current turn. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. Again, this is something that when I read it the first time, I actually had to go read up what Etherealness was again, because it's been a hot minute since I've seen it. Etherealness is a fucking janky spell. Alright, Etherealness is a way to get you out of fucking danger if you would need to. But it can also put you in a lot of kooky, crazy things, because according to the wording, you can go through objects with the Etherealness spell. I had a dungeon where what ended up happening is that my player, who was this player was the Horizon Walker, he stepped into the ethereal plane, and then what he did is within his one turn, he basically went through the ceiling, the floor, both walls, and something else, and then he gave his party members the descriptions and the ideas of what he saw when he went in there. And it was such a cool thing that it's like, you know, it's like this little like radar ping that just let him just like, hey, once a short rest, he can basically see into all of these areas without really any danger to him. He used it in such creative ways that I loved it. It was good in combat to get him out of danger, and it was excellent out of combat to break into a house, go into a cathedral that was boarded up and filled with paladins. He could literally just slide in, literally. This is a great spell, and this is a great ability, and the fact you get to do it every short or long rest, great. Alright, Distant Strike. At 11th level, you gain the ability to pass through the planes in the blink of an eye. When you use the attack action, you can teleport up to 10 feet before each attack to an unoccupied space that you can see. If you attack at least 2 different creatures with the action, you can make 1 additional attack with it against a 3rd creature. This is very good. It's not great, but it's good. The reason why I say that this is good is because remember how the swarm shoved you, it moved you, which means technically you still got, you still procced attacks of opportunities. This one, you teleport. You don't move, you teleport, which means this lets you teleport. And it says before each attack, which means something has closed the gap. You don't want that disadvantage on longbow attacks, on this big hill giant that just suddenly popped up on you. All right, you teleport 10 feet behind, hit it. Teleport another 10 feet behind, because you're 11th level, you get to attack multiple times. Teleport another 10 feet behind, hit it a second time, or another creature, and oh look, now you can make a 3rd attack. You get to teleport a 3rd time. You've now moved 30 feet in any unoccupied space you can see. In my mind, that means up. You can be up a fucking tree if you would like to. It just says an unoccupied space up to 10 feet. This is a great get out of jail free card, saving you this etherealness, this ethereal step to maybe out of combat situations. Alright, Spectral Defense. At 15th level, your ability to move through planes enables you to slip through the planar boundaries to lessen the harm done to you during battle. When you take damage from an attack, you can use your reaction to give yourself resistance to all of that attack's damage on this turn. this is nice. It is maybe not as nice, I will say, as the Swarm Keeper, simply because I do like that the Swarm Keepers basically does the same thing, only it allows you to also move 30 feet. However, this is still really good. Because Rangers, again, they suffer from that D8. I don't know, I think they get a D10. I'll have to double check on that one. I can't remember if they use D8s or D10s as their health pool, but I will say that generally Constitution is not one of their craziest of ability scores. So generally my Rangers are usually not, too crazy when it comes to hit points. So anytime that a Ranger knows that, hey, if shit goes really wrong and I get cornered and I can't get away, I can at least take a couple of hits, always a good thing. And the fact that it is, I can use my reaction to resist all of that attack's damage. It's not specific, it's not non-magical, all. Yes, it is a little heavy on the combat stuff, but in my mind, being able to detect portals, which I do constitute, I will admit, hands up, I do constitute spells like Teleport, Dimension Door, Word of Recall, Teleportation Circle. I consider those to be teleporting spells. I do. Portal traveling spells. But between that and Ethereal Step, you have those things that help you in and out of combat. Fantastic class. Loved DMing for it. I thought it was really cool. It allowed me to be a little bit more creative with the enemies I could throw at my parties because, it's kind of this character's backstory was that he was hunting, one particular planar traveling creature, and it ended up being something really, really cool, and I loved it. But, yeah, great, fantastic. Love the Horizon Walker. Alrighty. Now, I will admit, I am about to break a little bit of my own rule here. Because I will say that this class is very heavy in the combat situation. But it is so fucking cool that I couldn't. This is why I gotta have my hands up here and admit that this is maybe more of my own personal preference than research into this subclass, even though I have played it. Gloomstalker is, in my mind, one of the most fun Ranger classes you can play. Alright, here's how. At 3rd level, you get to be the Master of Ambush. You give yourself a bonus to your initiative rolls equal to your Wisdom modifier. At the start of each of your turns of combat, your walking speed increases by 10 feet, and when you take the attack action, you get to make one additional weapon attack as part of that action. If it hits, the target also takes an additional 1d8 of that weapon's damage type. Also at this, you have Dark Vision out to 60 feet. If you already have it, it is now 90 feet. And while in darkness, you are invisible to any creature that relies on dark vision to see you in that darkness. This means that if there is darkness out there, you are now under the invisible spell, which means that 1, any attacks made to you, if they know you are there, are at disadvantage. And if, depending on who your DM is, depending on how much you can sweet talk them, this could be something that's like, hey, they don't even know where you're shooting from. So until they get close enough to maybe be able to, realistically pinpoint you, you may find yourself being able to get a couple of good rounds off without having to be too worried about it. Now, Dread Ambusher. This is what I think every single Ranger has always wanted. Being able to get that nice little bonus to their initiative so that they hit first, so that so when they take that little multi-class dip into Assassin Rogue, that this might actually, it might actually help them out a little bit. But also the fact that they get that 3rd weapon attack at the start of their turn. Now, I've said that I generally try to not allow multi-class to make or break any of my subclasses, and to try to persuade any of my tier selections. But hear me out a second. Let's say that you take just a little tiny 2-level dip into Fighter, and you take Action Surge. According to this, as it is written, if you take the attack action on your turn, you can make 1 additional weapon attack as part of that action. And if that attack hits, it deals an extra 1d8, which, as far as I'm concerned, that means that you get to hit something 6 times. First turn of combat, you get to hit it 6 times with an additional d8 of damage on each one right out of the gate. But we're not done yet, and I'll get to that in a second. Alright, Iron Mind. At 7th level, you have honed your ability to resist the mind-altering powers of your prey. You gain proficiency in wisdom saving throws, which is nice. A lot of the fucky, higher level spells that like to mess with you and can instantly take a character out of combat due to charming effects or knocking out effects, it usually relies on wisdom. And if you already have proficiency in this for some reason, or maybe you've taken a feat of some kind, then you can throw it into your intelligence or charisma. Probably your charisma. Alright, Stalker's Flurry. At 11th level, you learn to attack with such unexpected speed that you can turn a miss into another strike. Once on each of your turns when you miss with a weapon attack, you can make another weapon attack as part of the same action. So in that first turn of combat, if one of those 6 don't hit, you can fucking try again, buddy. And technically, you could try twice, because technically if you action surge, you get to do it once on each, because it says it's part of the same action. According to action surge, it's a whole other action. Just saying. Alright, Shadowy Dodge. Starting at 15th level, you can dodge in unforeseen ways with wisps of supernatural shadow. Whenever a creature makes an attack roll against you and doesn't have advantage on the roll, like, I don't know, say maybe you are invisible because you are in darkness, so they sure as fuck would not have advantage on them, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on it. You must use this feature before you know the outcome of the attack roll. Notice how it says reaction, which again, rangers, they have that, usually they're pretty reaction light. Usually they're not too reliant on anything other than whatever their class gives them. Subclass gives them. But also notice that there is no fixed amount. You can do this every single turn. You just make them have disadvantage every time they try to hit you. Once, mind you, because it is a reaction. But once a turn, you just make them have disadvantage. This is cool. Now, I know what you're saying. How can I be talking about the ranger classes and saying that if they've only focused in one thing, how can I make it so good? Here's why. And here's why this is my S tier. And it's why I'm also saying it is totally fair that if you want Swarm Keeper or Horizon Walker to be S tier, there is a true, honest, thing that you can say why that is. But here's my thing. I made a class that was the epitome of DM, I insta-kill your big bad, and I do it in one round. And it required Gloomstalker. Okay, here's what I did. It was a 8th level character, I do believe. It was a 3rd level Gloomstalker Ranger, 2 level fighter, so for that sweet action surge, and then 3 levels of rogue. And you probably already know where this is going. With that 3rd level of rogue, you get your subclass, and you go assassin. According, rule is written, the assassin 3rd level ability states all attacks. It does not say the first. It does not say one. It says all attacks on a surprised enemy are auto crits. You are invisible in darkness. You have the ability, as a ranger, you have the sweet, sweet spell ability to cast the wonderful thing called Pass Without a Trace, which gives you a +10 to a stealth. You are a class that relies on dex as an attack stat. So I bet you your stealth is not only pretty good, but if you got your proficiency or maybe even expertise in that, because Tasha's has implemented the ability to early on gain an expertise in that stealth, I bet you can sneak right into that big boss's lair and fire 2 times, because according to our Gloomstalker feat here at 3rd level, They attack and then they immediately get to attack again. Action Surge, they immediately get to attack 2 more times. They immediately get to add that D8 onto each one of those. And because you are an assassin, and because you have surprised them, which technically is constituted by you going before the enemy does and they do not know that you are there, then each and every one of those arrows is a crit. Every single one. I had so much fun just instantly dealing like 100 and something hit points of damage. Just right out of the gate. And once you get to 5th level Ranger, then you get to do 2. Which means technically you get 3 attacks a turn, which means once you Action Surge, that is 6 attacks. With extra D8s, all crits. And the sneak attack damage as well, which is doubled. That was such a cool, fun Ranger that I will admit maybe it has colored me. Maybe it has put me into a stupor and has made me think that this class is better than what it is. Because I will admit, it required me to multi-class. I had to take that fighter class. I had to take that assassin class to do what I wanted it to do. But there's just something so cool about this class. There's just such a cool vibe about it. And the fact that it does give you things like proficiency in wisdom or intelligence charisma if it's already taken. The fact that you are considered invisible if you are in darkness. That can be used definitely in and out of combat. To me, this is such a cool class that I cannot imagine you not having a fun time with it. Especially if you're on maybe the edgier side. But hey, this was my 2 cents. I will say that this is probably the one class that I have maybe been colored the most. So if you disagree, I can't fault you for it. I bet you if I really break numbers and crunch numbers, I bet you that there might be some Ranger subclasses, looking at you there, Swarm Keeper, Horizon Walker, that maybe deserve to be up here at S tier. But I just can't help it. That I will never forget my Rorik, the Gloomstalker assassin. But whatever the case, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that at the very least, maybe you listen to the ranting and you just go, you know what, I can see it. I fucking disagree. I definitely think Swarmkeeper should definitely be fucking S tier, or Drake Warden should definitely be fucking S tier, but I see where he's going with it. But whatever the case, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will most definitely catch you next time.